So I wanted to make a video about one of the realizations that I've had in my life journey, but also my entrepreneurial journey. And so that realization is don't take winning advice from people who aren't winning. And it's something that I noticed a pattern in my life where I have people telling me what to do, whether it be in different areas of my life, whether it be health or business or, handling certain situations. And the pattern that I saw was just they're telling me what to do, but their own life doesn't reflect it. And it's not a malicious thing. It's generally it's a well-meaning thing. People do it out of a loving heart because they think that they're helping, right? But the advice is coming from a place of theory and a place of somewhere they have never actually been. And so this video, I wanted to make it to learn together how to be intentional with whose voices get weight in our decisions. And so the first part is just kind of the well-meaning issue. So we have friends, we have family who, they'll try and give us advice on how we should be handling things, how we should be dealing with certain parts of our lives, right? And when they do this, they're giving it out of a genuine and a good heart, right? But they're also giving that advice through their own life lens. Everybody has different experiences, everybody has different risk tolerance, and everybody has their own ceiling and own calling upon their life, right? And so you'll get things commonly where it's like, oh, be careful, or that sounds risky, or from a business perspective, one thing that I heard a lot is, why don't you just stay in the stable job, right? And these aren't bad intentions, but it's the wrong frame of reference for who it's coming from, right? Because the danger isn't who obviously doesn't know, because some people genuinely don't know the answer to the questions you're asking or don't know what advice to give you, but it's the ones who genuinely believe they're helping and they're doing it out of a good heart, right? And this can be hard because you want to go to your friends, you want to go to your family, the people that are close to you for advice in life. But the key point here is that proximity doesn't equal qualification. Just because you're close to somebody doesn't mean they're qualified to direct you on different parts of your life. And there's also a flip side of this, which we see on social media a lot, which is the guru issue, right? And this is where you have these people who have built their businesses upon giving advice to people in different areas of life. So one commonly seen thing for this is people who have built their business upon the fact that they're telling people how to run a business that they have never actually done themselves. You see this a lot in coaches, consultants. There's different buzzwords for it to make them sound juiced up and better. But at the end of the day, most of these people, these online educators, they, for the most part, don't have real reps in the game, right? Some do for sure, but many of them don't. And so whenever I see these people online, the question I always ask is like, did they build this and now are genuinely trying to help people? Or did they build an audience teaching others how to build it without actually doing it? And this kind of goes back to what I mentioned a minute ago about theory versus actual practice. There's a huge difference between studying entrepreneurship and actually living it out, right? There's two completely different things. You can read all the business books in the world, but until you actually put in the reps, you don't know how to handle specific scenarios. So the principle I kind of want to leave y'all with today is advice is only as valuable as the life it comes from, right? So an example of this would be you wouldn't take fitness advice from somebody who is obese, right? You shouldn't take business advice from somebody who has never built a business. If somebody's been in a W-2 job their whole life, you don't want to learn how to run a business from them because they've never actually done it. And so when you start looking at life and the advice that you get from people through this frame, you realize that most people's opinions and advice is disqualified by default because most people live an average life and most people are not doing the things that you are likely striving to do. And so it's not that they're wrong, but it's just that they haven't done it. And so it's just all theory once again. And so the framing that you really have to start going through life isn't, okay, does this person really want the best for me? But rather you have to look at it through the lens of, have they actually done this? Do the words that they're telling me right now actually get reflected in their life? And, it's pretty easy to look at people's lives and look at the words that they're saying and see if it reflects back, right? Like, it's easy to take somebody's advice and look at their life and see if they've applied it in theirs. And if they have, how has it worked? And if that person has built the life that you want, then I would say that is somebody that you could take advice from. But if they're living a completely different life than the one that you want, then that means that their risk tolerance, their lens of life, and their calling upon their life is completely different. And so therefore their opinion and their advice is likely disqualified by default. And this doesn't mean that you have to be rude about it. It doesn't mean that you can't listen to it and digest it and hear other frames of opinions, but it means you shouldn't take their advice and run with it immediately, but rather you could synthesize, and this is something I would recommend always, is taking multiple points of view, multiple points of advice, and synthesizing it together before you make a decision. So now I kind of wanted to talk about who actually deserves your ear, like who actually should you be giving the attention and the weight of their words to, right? And I kind of hit on this a second ago, but you want to look for the people who are living the life that you're wanting to build. Doesn't have to be the exact same path, but the principles, the foundation that you want to build in your life, right? The same principles are in action in their lives. And another thing that you can look at, and this is something that I think nowadays, especially in the modern entrepreneurial landscape, is, are they still in it? Did they do this 5-10 years ago, or are they still actively living it out? Because the modern landscape of how to run a business and how to handle life changes very quickly, and there are some tried and true principles that remain, but overall life changes very quickly. And I think it's just really, as you're doing this, you start to classify people as mentors versus theorists, right? And so both can be valuable. You can, as I mentioned, synthesize and take information from both sides, but you need to always remember the frame of which one you're listening to, because ultimately that is what helps with your decision-making process and allows you to weigh different people's words against one another. And another thing with this that I've learned is you don't need a mentor or whoever, somebody whose word you value. You don't need their permission to start. Their job is to compress your timeline down so that you can take what they learned over a span of 10 years and compress it into a month, right? And that's why books and other things are so valuable. And, another part of this is just you have to remember that no mentor, no course, no audiobook, no nothing is as valuable as you going through trial and error. So when you are able to actually just get out in the field, put reps in and learn and reiterate after each rep, reflecting on what you did good, what went bad, things like that, that will make your growth happen much faster than listening to anybody's advice, right? Because most of what you'll learn over a longer time span is only what you can learn through putting in the reps, right? The goal of finding a good advisor or a good mentor is to shorten that feedback loop and to bounce things off of, right? It's not to eliminate trial by fire, right? Like at some point you just have to get out there and just try what you think, because that's the only way that innovation actually happens. So even as you do find people whose opinions you can value and opinions that you can take and run with and their word weighs heavy, you still want to protect your willingness to be able to go out there and just get reps in and try and learn on your own, because that's ultimately where you will grow most in all areas of life. So yeah, this video went on a little bit longer than I wanted it to go, but to close out, in conclusion, be grateful for those around you, because when they give you advice, they're doing it out of a loving heart and they're doing it because they genuinely want to help you, right? It's just sometimes you need to frame your listening with the right framing of being intentional about whose words carry more weight in certain situations. And some people's will carry more in one area and others will carry more in another. And always remember that a lot of the people trying to give you this advice haven't lived the life that you're trying to build. If you want to be extraordinary, you can't take the actions and stack days of doing actions of the average person. If you do actions of an average person, you will end up living an average life. It's just simple mathematics. So be careful who you listen to. Take people's advice, synthesize it around, and ultimately be very intentional about who you're listening to and who you're taking advice from. And always remember that it is your life. You must build it how you want. And sometimes the best way to do that is trial and error rather than listening to the words of other people. So that's it for me today. As always, never stop your relentless pursuit of continuous improvement. And I'll look forward to talking to y'all again soon.